Hi, Alan.
Hi, Nick.
Hello. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. Just for the listeners who's listening, we have Alan Misner here with us and your host, Nicolette Nieras. Alan right now is in Panama, the Caribbean. Yours truly, I am now located in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So that's thousands of miles apart, but thank you to technology, we are here right now. So, as the start of my podcast, I'd like to read a bit of our guest's introduction today before we get right into our conversation. So, hello everyone. We have Coach Allen here. Coach Allen is a National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer, a precision nutrition level 2 master health coach, and a Functional Aging Institute FAI certified functional aging specialist. He went on to earn specialties in behavior change, corrective exercise, performance enhancement, fitness nutrition, and online personal training. He is also the host of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, the largest and longest running health and fitness podcast for people over 40. He has interviewed hundreds of health and wellness experts over a wide range of topics. So, fellow podcaster, hello. He is the author of the award winning book, The Wellness Roadmap, a straightforward guide to health and fitness after 40. In 2000, he launched 40 Plus Fitness online personal training to help people over 40 improve their health by losing weight and getting fit. As mentioned earlier, he and his wife live on a Caribbean island in Bocas del Toro, Panama, where they run Lulu's Bed and Breakfast. Wow, welcome, Alan.
Well, I'm good. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for taking the time to be interviewed today. So,
Well,
so Alan, please, can you share with us before we get right into the nitty gritty of our conversation? Can you share with us what was it like growing up as Alan Meisner? Mm.
I was a military brat, and so in the United
Ooh.
States, a large percentage of people work for the military, and the military moves you around every few years. So I moved here, there, back and forth, my whole childhood, and that sort of became my adult lifestyle too. I wanted to see the world. I wanted new things. So I wasn't someone that was going to settle down, if you will, at least not at an early age. So when I took my careers and as I worked through my career, I was always looking for that job that would send me to wonderful places to visit and sometimes not so wonderful places to visit. But it allowed me, because I became an accountant and I earned my CPA, and
No,
I started working my way up through
I'm an
public,
accountant
through
too.
okay, and I'm working my way through internal audit in all these international companies, and they're sending me all over the world, and I loved it. I loved that part of it. I loved my career, and I worked really, really hard at it, and I went up the ladder really, really quickly. So I was the top auditor, basically a C-suite vice president at the age of 39.
No.
But I
Wow.
was extremely miserable. My health had
Mm.
declined, my fitness had declined, and my relationships were all crap. So really the only thing I had going well for me at that time was my career, and I had been completely buried in it for nearly 20 years, but I was just miserable.
20 years. Wow. Like, okay, well, there's so we have I think we have so many parallels here, especially the accounting part and also the burnout. But 20 years. So what okay, what was that pivotal moment that made you think that when you put your foot down and say, okay, I'm gonna make a change?
Okay, there were two.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was not so successful, but it was very meaningful at the time. I was in Mexico at a resort. I forced myself to go on vacation. I had not taken a vacation in like 3 years, and I said, I've got to take this. I went down there and I literally bought a timeshare the first day I showed up. And timeshare is basically where you make a purchase and you own a week or you own points or however they do it. But I made
Uh,
it where I was like invested because I bought a week and I needed to use that week or I would lose the week. And so I knew if I did that, I would take at least 1 week off every year. So I did that first. And then they had this volleyball tournament, game that you could go out and just play, a pickup game. And I went out there thinking, okay, I used to play volleyball all the time. I was pretty good at it. I barely made it through the first game and I'd quit. I couldn't do it. I was extremely disappointed in myself and I decided, okay, I'm gonna fix this. Well, I went 8 years trying to fix myself, and it
Mm.
wasn't working. It just was not working. Nothing I tried worked, or nothing I tried stuck. So I'd lose 20 pounds and then I'd put it right back on. I would try to do an exercise program, and the next day I couldn't get out of bed. So all these things I was trying for a number of years. And then about 8 years later, it all kind of came together. Two other things. I was ending a very, very toxic relationship that I'd been in for that whole 8 years. And my daughter said something to me. She was getting into CrossFit and these competitions, the obstacle course races and stuff like that. And she became a level 1 CrossFit coach. And so I was very, very proud of her. And she was very much a picture of what I was at her age. If I was her age, I would have been doing CrossFit. I would have been doing those obstacle courses. Absolutely. So I was looking back and saying she's kind of back where I was, which was wonderful. And then she said these words. She said, "Daddy, will you come watch me compete in this CrossFit competition?" And I was like, wait, I never wanted, I never expected that I would be a spectator in my daughter's life. I wanted to be a participant. I felt like I should be doing that competition with her. I should be there too.
Um,
And that hit me in the gut. Of course, I did go watch. I did go watch, but that was sort of the moment. And I remember it very clearly because I was actually laying in a hotel room on a Sunday morning in Kuala Lumpur. And I was, yeah, I just, that hit me. She had said that, and I was like, whoa, that's not me. That's,
mm.
that's not how I'm, that's not how this is going. And so at that point, I realized, I said, okay, why have I been able to do hard things all my life? All my life,
Yeah.
I've done these really hard things that, you don't make it to the executive suite and become a vice president of a Fortune 500 company at the age of 39 without doing a lot of hard things. You
Mm.
don't pass the CPA exam on the first try without
Yeah.
doing a lot of hard things. And so there were all these hard things. I said, what is different about this? Why can't I do this? And
Mhm.
then I never committed to this the way I had those other things. I
Mm.
wanted thinner. I wanted to be healthier. I wanted to be more fit, but I hadn't done that commitment. And a commitment is a very different thing than a decision. A decision is, oh, this is a nice to have. The commitment is a must have.
Mm.
And so if you could imagine that, like when you get married and you tell you get married, it's a very emotional, deep thing. You have this vision of what your life is going to be like with this person, and you commit. And
Mhm.
when you commit, you do the hard things. Yes, there's going to be hard times. There's going to be arguments. But you do them. You get through them. You work through that. So you don't let little obstacles or even big obstacles get in your way. You make it happen. And so that's what I did. Also, knowing myself, I thought, okay, if I make this obstacle harder, I'll actually work harder. And so what I did was I called my daughter. I started working on it, and I was making some traction. I said, okay, I got to do something here. And I called my daughter and I said, hey, I know we're doing these little obstacle course race things. I said, how about we do a Tough Mudder? Okay, and if you a Tough Mudder, so an obstacle course race basically works like this. It's basically a mud run. So you're running in a muddy area.
Mhm.
It's usually where I ride the four wheelers and the mud trucks and do all that kind of stuff. So it's very tough terrain to even try to run through. Then they throw these obstacles in there. So those little ones we're doing. The Tough Mudder is 12 to 13 miles in these
Yeah.
kind of conditions. And they have 25 obstacles that are intended to stop you from being able to do that
Complete that.
event. And and so I said, well, let's do a Tough Mudder. And she's like, okay. So I signed up for a Tough Mudder. This was in March. We did it. We signed up for November. So I had 8 months to get myself in condition to be
Mhm.
able to keep up with my level 1 CrossFit coach daughter, who was 20. I was 45, almost 46. And so we started training, and I started really getting into it. I lost 66 pounds of fat. I gained 11 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
And then I was able to run that Tough Mudder with my daughter. And so a lot of the things that I talked about earlier, where I said, okay, I was miserable and I was unfit and I was unhealthy and I had terrible relationships, all of that was changing. And now I had a much better relationship with my daughter. I was much fitter and I was much healthier. And so many things have happened in my life from doing that thing that I'm glad I did the hard thing. I really am.
When was the CrossFit competition?
Well, she did the CrossFit competition right after we had that conversation in, I want to say it was November. So
Right.
I went and watched her do the CrossFit. But that's when I first kind of, started doing a few things. And by March, I was able to do a small little mud run, but she ran off and left me. So, it's like, well, again, I wasn't as fit and healthy, and there were other people that were running it in our group that were much more fit and healthy. So they just ran off. And I'm like, okay, cool. But that was
I'm
fine.
leaving you.
Still finished it. I still that one was only 3 miles. So I was able to do those little things like that. But I'm like, this is not moving the needle. Yeah, I'm losing a little bit of weight, and yeah, I'm getting a little bit more fit. But this is just not pushing me. I'm not pushing myself hard enough. And so I know, now I kind of trained thousands of people that I can sit down and talk to someone for a few minutes, and I'm like, this person needs this to motivate. It's mindsets. So I've identified 5 mindsets, okay,
Mm-hmm.
hold people back. Now, I look at it from the health and fitness perspective, but it can apply, these different mindsets can apply in almost any way you look at things. The first one that I was dealing with, I think, was a co-pilot, and this was early on, and a co-pilot is a person who's taking care of everybody else, looking after everything else, and not giving enough time to take care of themselves. So it's the mother that has the kids. I got to feed the kids and take them to school and do this and do that. And by the end of the day, she's just exhausted. How is she going to do a workout? And she doesn't want to cook 2 meals because the kids want to eat that and her husband wants to eat this. And she just doesn't have the energy to say, I can't eat those things and lose weight. She's not going to put the time in to figure out how to have healthy food for herself if the others won't eat it. So she just gives in and she's taking care of everybody else. That's a co-pilot.
She lets
Now,
go of
co-pilot,
herself.
she does. Now, a
Yeah.
co-pilot has a secret weapon, make a superpower, if they'll take the time to do one thing, and that is to raise their hand and ask for help, okay? Because they have a team. The kids and the husband are a part of her unit. They're a team. And if she would just say to her kids, look, I need 45 minutes to go to the gym, and talk to her husband and say, hey, could you get them ready for bed? Give them their bath, get them ready for bed. I'm going to run to the gym, get my workout in, and come back up, and we'll both tuck them in and read them their stories, say our prayers, and we're good, okay? But you got to ask. You got to get them involved. And when you do, sometimes, because the thing is, the reason you're doing this is them. You want to be a better caretaker. You want to be a better mom. You want to be a better wife. You want to be all those things. You need their help to do that in the long term. So asking for that help is a superpower. Once you do it, you'll be amazed how much sometimes these folks will step up and make your life 1,000 times easier. And you're getting it done. And many times they'll engage with you. Hey, mom, I want to go on the walk.
Yeah.
Can I go on the walk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I come
And
with you?
yeah, exactly. So you get a lot of that going on. Now that's the co-pilot. Now after I left that, then I stepped into what I call windshield. Now windshield is a person who's looking in the rearview mirror at who they were. Now for me,
Dwelling in the past, saying
yes,
that, oh,
I
I
thought
wish.
I'm an athlete. Yeah, I'm an athlete. I was an athlete my whole life until I got to about 32 years old, and then I stopped being an athlete physically and mentally. And so I kept looking and saying, I want that. I try to do those things and it didn't work for me. And I just couldn't get past it until you realize where you are, and you start looking out the windshield. Once you start looking out the windshield, then you can drive forward. But you can't do that looking in the rearview mirror. And so the superpower for a windshield person is when they sit their butt down right where they are and say, this is where I am. I just need to go that way, forward, the windshield. And so that's the windshield. Once I kind of figured that out, I can't do what I was doing before. And that took me about 8 years. Then I realized, okay, I'm probably at tires because I wasn't getting any traction. I'd do a workout once and then I'd, not do another workout for a few days. And I was traveling a lot. So that was part of my excuse. I get this flight to this country. I'm on a plane for 27 hours. And then I get there and I'm jet lagged, and then I'm going to work and all the things. I made all these excuses, and I'm in a hotel, so I'll just stop at the hotel bar, and that's where I'll have my dinner, and of course, few beers. And so that was, I developed a terrible lifestyle because I kept saying, okay, this is, I can't, I just wasn't getting any traction. So what I realized was I need traction. So I'm a tires at that point. I needed traction. So once a person with who's a
Windshield.
gets that consistency, it starts working. So that's someone that works really well with like gamification, or like I'll have my tires. I'll say, I want you to get a paper calendar, and I want you to write a green W every day that you do this thing in your calendar. So if you say, I want to walk for at least 30 minutes each day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Every day you walk 30 minutes, I want you to put a green W on that calendar. And as a person starts seeing those W's add up, they want a streak. They want more of them on the calendar. And so it kind of drives that behavior of getting traction and feeling good and moving forward. The analogy I often use is, and this won't make a lot of sense to a lot of people, is when you're driving in frozen water. So if it rains and snows a lot where you are, okay, the
Yeah, we
roads will
don't know in
the road,
Colombo, but yeah.
yeah, the roads, yeah, it doesn't do that there.
Yeah.
The roads will ice, and particularly a hill. And if you start going up a hill that's iced over a bit and got ice patches, and you've got traction, anyone that knows from driving that knows never put on the brake, never
Because it's
harder
gonna.
on the gas. Just
Uh-huh.
slow and steady, keep going. You've got traction, you'll keep traction. You just got to keep going. As soon as you stop that traction, as soon as you slow down, put your foot off the gas, you're going to slide backwards and probably into the ditch. And so as a tires person, you just, once you know you got traction, you just keep going. And so they like the gamification and all of that. Another one is a pedals person. I never was a pedals person, but a pedals person is someone who tries something like, oh, there's this new thing, and they go and do it for a couple weeks, and then they're looking up, themselves in the mirror, or they step on the scale and they're like, it's not really working. So they shift and they just go do something entirely different. So they never give any one thing enough time to actually work. So like, I'll try this paleo thing, and then they're doing it, and they're like, I really miss my rice, and so they drop back and they go back to what they were doing.
Sounds like an Asian. It sounds like
Oh,
me.
it's the pedal. So you got the gas and the brake. So once you try something, commit to it for long enough to see if it really works. 2 weeks, 3 weeks is typically not enough time to know if what you're doing is really working, because with health and fitness, the good stuff's happening inside and you can't see it yet. It's not going to show up on the scale, and it's definitely not going to show up in the mirror. But if you keep going, you're likely to start seeing results. So at least give it enough time before you hit that break and try something else. If you know it works because you've seen it work with other people, stick with it just long enough to see if it works for you. So that's a pedals person. And then the final one is Atlas. And this is what I am. And when I say Atlas, it's the paper atlas we used to have. They're hard to find now, but we used to carry maps with us in our cars, not the GPS. And so when you're going to take a long trip, you'd pull this book out, you'd find the map of, the course that you were going to take. And we would usually get like a red felt pen, and we would draw the route on the map. And so that's how everybody can kind of look at the atlas and see where we are and know how far we've got to go.
Oh,
But
I haven't heard that word in such a long
yeah,
time. Atlas.
well, I'm a little older, but the journey. So it's about the journey and knowing there's this journey, and so I need a journey in front of me. I need a big goal, and the scarier that goal is, the harder I'll work. So that was my Tough Mudder. That was those kind of things, and now I have other things that I have in my head that I'm like, okay, I gotta do this. I gotta avoid that. And so I always have kind of this forward look on my health and fitness to say, I need the journey. I need to see what this does, and I need to keep going. So an Atlas superpower is, once you set a big, scary goal for yourself, you're going to go get the work.
Mm, mm. But you need that courage. You need that push
Right. Well, but
within you.
that's what an Atlas person does, though. The Atlas person is high
Right. So
balance,
it's innately within them. Like,
right,
okay,
because
have a
and
goal.
so another way people would say this is, typically Atlases are also what we call A type, in the psychology. So someone who is like, they're going to push hard at work, they're going to push hard when they play, those types of things.
Competitive.
So they can be competitive, but more competitive against themselves.
Okay.
They want to perform well. Atlases want to perform well. So when they set that goal, they want to reach that goal. And so this is someone. So if you looked at it, let's say you're a salesperson and you're going into this next month, and you're like, okay, I don't want to just meet my quota. I want to blow my quota out. And you set a sales target that's twice as far as your quota. And you
Mhm.
know what this means. This means that you're doing all the stuff. You're getting up early in the morning, you're doing your prep, and then you're making your calls, and you keep making your calls, and you keep making your calls. And then at the end of the day, you make one more call. And,
Mhm.
and you're doing that every day because you're not satisfied with being medium. You want to be excellent. You've set a higher standard. So if you look at it from a business perspective, that's how that works. You set this big honking goal. I had done that with my career. I remember I took a new job and I sat down with my boss and we were going to talk about expectations. So I set up this meeting with him. Said, I want to talk
Setting
about
expectations.
expectations. And he came to me and I said, what do you want from me? And he went through and told me what he wanted. I was the most junior person in his department, okay, when he hired me. And so I went in there, and so there's a group of 11 superstars, and I was the new guy. And I said, okay. He said, what's your expectation? I said, I want your job. I said, not right now, but I said, when you're done with your job and you move on to
I
something
want to
else,
be sitting there.
I want your job. I want you to prepare me to take your job.
Woo!
Okay. Now, I didn't know that that was going to happen in 1 year, but it did. Okay.
Wow. Wow. Cool
Okay.
jokes,
So
Allan.
big, scary goal. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be a director of an audit department. I was, at the time I moved over there, I was 29 years old. No, wait, maybe 30 years old. And then I made director a year later. I'd gone from the most junior person in that department to the director in 1 year.
In 1 year.
In 1 year. But
Wow.
it was because of a few things. Well, because I wanted that, I put that in front of me. I was doing a lot of self-development on my own. I was doing a really good job. I
Mhm.
was making a name for myself in the business because as a person in that field in internal audit, you meet everybody. You meet everybody in the company. They
Mhm.
hate you, but you meet
Mhm.
everybody. And so I was meeting all the people. I was going all the places. I was going above and beyond when I meet people in different locations. I was also the person that would do whatever needed to be done. So, my boss is like, "Well, we need to do this. There's this problem in Colombia." I'm like, "Okay." He's like,
Send
"No,
me off.
we can't go." At the time, it was not the safest place. We can't go to Colombia. I'm like, "Well, yeah, we
Uh-huh.
can." You know, I've worked for companies and it's like, well, we're going to do this job in Iraq. And I'm like, okay. And so I get on an airplane and I fly to Iraq and I'm wearing a flak jacket and a helmet in a truck going, through the cities. And so, when you're an out, like I said, when you're an Atlas, you that drives you. It's like, I want to be the best at this and I need to be seen as the person who does the job. And that gets you the promotion. So that's what going from director to vice president is like, okay, this guy is doing the job. He's not
Mm.
afraid to do the job. And so I don't say that to brag. I just say if you'll go through and figure out what your mindset is, then that gives you the first step. And so I didn't just bounce back into being an Atlas. I was a co-pilot for a long, long time, taking care of everything else, everybody else. Again, that worked well in my career, or especially early in my career. I make my boss look good. I make my coworkers look good. Then that's cool. Everybody's happy, and I make my living. It doesn't necessarily get you promoted, but it gets you moving forward.
Mm.
And then I was a windshield. I'm looking back in the past. This is who I was physically, and I'm not there now. And what do I need to do to get there instead of just looking out the windshield? Then I was at tires because I just wasn't getting traction. Once I started getting traction, then I was like, okay, I need something big and scary in front of me. And that's when I turned to my now primary mindset, which is the Atlas.
Atlas.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have a quiz on my website if you're interested. It's around health and fitness. It's going to ask health and fitness questions, but it takes about 60 seconds. And you go through and take the quiz. It will tell you your health type. And this
Mhm.
is basically your initial primary mindset. You'll probably recognize, as I've talked about them here, a few of them in yourself, because
Mhm.
we have more than one. But
Mhm.
there's a primary one that you have to address first. Like I couldn't just turn on Atlas when I was
Immediately. Yeah.
when I was a co-pilot because that didn't work, and I couldn't turn on Atlas when I was
And
windshield
windshield.
because I
Mm.
just wouldn't do the right things. I would hurt myself. And so I had to work my way through each of those mindsets to get to a point where I can do the things I want to do. But you can go to 40plusfitness.com. That's 40plusfitness.com / takes about 60 seconds. It's absolutely free. And you'll get your type, and then you get a report that'll kind of give you some tips on how to optimize yourself at that mindset type.
I'd like to ask you on that paddle person, right? You said
Yeah.
you needed that time to actually get that. I don't know. Was it
The result? Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
result. I mean, you basically coach so many people. What is the theme here? How long does it take to change that habit?
I would give any activity you want to do at least 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Okay. 6 weeks. And again, everybody's a little different, but 6 weeks should give you a pretty good idea. So if I sit there and say, okay, I'm going to cut out sugar. I'm going to take my sugar down, and I'm not going to eat more than what the World Health Organization says, which is 25 grams of added sugar every day, which means, yeah, I can still eat some fruit. I can still have vegetables that have sugar, but 25 grams of added sugar. And I start measuring added sugar as I go, because what'll happen is my body initially, nothing will happen. I'll go through the first 3 weeks, and I'll be like, I want sugar in my coffee. Well, I can't have sugar in my coffee because that's more than my allowed sugar. So I've got to drink my sugar, I drink my coffee black anyway, but for someone that puts sugar in their coffee, that's a big deal apparently. And so it's like, okay, so, and then I can't have sugar on this, and I'm looking the box of this thing, like, wow, look at all that sugar. I can't eat this. And so you're going through, and then after a few weeks, then the scale might start to show it. And then your palate will adapt, and things like that. I remember as a kid, we used to put sugar on strawberries. Okay. I have no idea why but we did. And it was like it was necessary or something. Right now, a strawberry is, I can taste the sweetness in a strawberry. I can taste the sweetness in a carrot. They're very sweet. If you don't eat a lot of sugar and you start eating
you appreciate this natural sugars within all these vegetables.
I cannot eat a papaya or a mango. They're too sweet. They're too sweet. It's like I don't like them anymore because they're too sweet. A blueberry, a strawberry,
it's a sourish.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll eat a banana, and it's very sweet. Pineapple is very sweet. And they're abundant here. That's where they come from.
Yeah, Caribbean, right?
Right. And so I like this. I wish, I don't wish. I like what I like, but my palate has changed, and things taste a lot sweeter because I can actually taste the sugar in them that's already inherently in them. I don't need to add sugar to anything. And so I just say that doesn't happen the first week, the second week. So now you're like, I hate drinking my coffee without sugar, or I really want this thing or that thing, but I know it has all that sugar in it. After a while, those cravings go away, and so once you get past that, then you're really going to see things, because now you're not eating that sugar. Your body's adjusting. Yeah, it's going to flush a little bit of water too. That's part of the reason why carbohydrates bloat us up a bit, is we hold the water. But
yeah.
So then you'll start seeing it on the scale. Then you'll start feeling better. Then you'll start tasting your food and enjoying it more. And so it takes 6 weeks or more to get to a point where you start to see those positive changes. And if you just sit there and get 3 weeks in, and it's like, dang it, and then you start putting sugar in your coffee and doing that things that you did before, well, now you're right back where you were. You hit the gas for a minute, then you hit the brakes for a minute. And if you ever get in your car and try to drive that way, well, you kind of have to in Malaysia, but you don't go very far if it's gas, brake, gas, brake, gas, brake.
No.
And heaven forbid it rain in Kuala Lumpur. Jesus.
Yeah. You remember.
You could be in I remember getting in a taxi. We were in the taxi for an hour and a half.
Gosh.
We didn't drive a mile. Yeah, we didn't know where the restaurants.
Kuala Lumpur for you guys. No, but
yeah,
I mean, you probably took the taxi at a peak time. So.
It was right after work. We were going to go to this dinner. Someone had told us. It wasn't just me.
Must have been a Friday.
It was. Well, it may not even been, but I don't know. It was but we were having dinner, and we're all going to go to dinner together, and we all piled into the taxi, The local boss got into his driver's car because he had a driver. The rest of us got in a taxi, and we're going in a taxi, and we're hardly moving. And we get through, and I'm looking at where we are, and I'm like, I'm literally maybe a half a mile from my hotel.
So you walked?
I walked back. I wasn't getting
Uh-huh.
in another taxi, but it was like we were in a taxi for an hour and a half to get to
Shoot.
this restaurant. It
And
took
this
because
is in downtown Kuala Lumpur,
this
right?
is right there,
Yes.
right there at the towers and
Towers, yeah.
Petronas Towers. And so I was like this crazy. I'm like, okay, but if you're gonna keep hitting on the brake, you're not gonna go anywhere. And so you've got to find something that you really believe will work, and then give it every shot you can. And if you need to pivot, if you need to do something different, then do that. But for the most part, we know what we're supposed to do. I mean, we know the foods that are helping us lose weight, and we know the foods that are hurting us. And so
Mm-hmm.
finding something that you feel is sustainable and sticking with it long enough, you'll begin to see the results. For someone who's a pedals, seeing results drives their behavior. Once they start seeing the results, it's easy for them to stay on the gas.
Yeah.
Okay. See, but you gotta get off that brake long enough to see that happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go back to the part where you said, because you said you came from a military background. Like when you say
Yes.
military, did you actually go to the military
Yes.
academy?
Yes. Well, I didn't go in any academies. I joined the military. So I was military. Yeah, my father and my stepfathers, they were all military. So
Right.
I was a military brat growing up, and then yes, I went to college for 2 years, and
Uh-huh.
I wanted to be an astronaut. The kids want to be astronauts and firefighters and all these. I wanted to be an astronaut, so I literally majored in physics when I went to college first, and so I was
Oh,
majoring in physics, and then
wow.
this is before your time, but the Columbia blew up. That we wanted to be an astronaut, and they blew up a shuttle. And here's the thing that was very different for me as that age. I was 20. Was when it blew up, everybody was like looking at plumes of smoke and like,
Mm,
oh, God. And I'm like, they just killed a civilian.
mm,
Everybody that's on the shuttle missions was military, and they were all military officers. That's what they send up there. But
mhm.
there was a civilian on that flight. She was a school teacher. Okay. And so there were millions of school kids watching this shuttle launch. We all were, and it blew up.
Mm,
And
mm,
so I knew at that moment that they were going to find every little piece of that craft that blew up way up in the atmosphere, and that until they did, they weren't going to send another shuttle up.
right.
That was my career window for being an astronaut. It just went away with that event.
Mm,
Knew
mhm.
that. I could have probably pushed through because they were doing missions after that, after a few years. But it wasn't the number of missions, because there was a trajectory that the shuttle program was going, where there would be shuttles going like airplanes today. Like you go to the airport and there's plane. We were going to be doing that with shuttles to
Mm,
the space station, and that was going to grow, and it was going to be this thing. I knew that wasn't going to happen anymore, not like that anyway. And so I said, okay, I've got to change, and since I don't really have enough money to go to the next level of college anyway, I'll join the military. So I did 2 years in the infantry. So I was
mm.
a ground soldier, learning how to do that, and 2 years learning how to kill people. But it was
Oh
basically.
my God, my first instinct would be to ask the question, but I'm
No,
holding
I
myself back.
didn't. It was peacetime. Thankfully, it was peacetime.
Okay.
There's a lot of people
Woo.
that go, and then they do go out into combat situations, and that happens. But no, it was peacetime. But again, I looked at it and said, I'm a professional, and this is my job, and I'm going to do this. And back then, it really wasn't a question. I was totally Atlas, and so
Mhm.
for me, it was okay. I'm going to be the best in this unit. There's going to be no doubt whatsoever that's what I am. Then I was physically training from sunrise to well after sunset. So I would be up at 6 o'clock physically training, running, lifting weights, doing aerobics, doing all day long, every day, 5 days a week. I was go, 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 go. And so, yes, physically I was as fit and strong and everything else as I had ever been. And it was all for the sake of this is my job. My job is to be physically because as a soldier, we go where we go. We carry all of our equipment with us. So our pack could be 65 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever. And if we've got to cover 30 miles that day, we cover 30 miles.
Wow. And then after that, you went to, when did you get yourself certified as a,
So what I did then was after I got out of the Army, I went back to school and I majored in
uh-huh.
accounting. And so I got my
Wow.
master's in accounting. I passed the CPA before I graduated. And so when I went into public accounting, I was already certified and ready to go. I did that for about 6.5 years and then said, okay, I want a job that lets me travel more. So I took a job in internal audit.
So it's like, I was imagining like how you were, it's like you're a person that you go and then it's like that focus is one thing, but then because you wanted to be at a certain point in your career, but then you had to let sort of like put the health stuff in the back burner
Yeah.
and then you focus. And then, yeah. So what, I don't know, how would you say that? How would you approach life right now? Or like,
So,
would you say
so
balance it out or?
it is. So I'll give you an example. It's a story, but rather than just tell you what I think. Okay.
Mhm.
So I had started doing some coaching on the side because I fixed myself and people were asking questions. I got certified as a personal trainer to train myself because when I was doing the traveling, I'd used like things like being in being here, being there as an excuse. If you're traveling, people talk about travel percentage. So you take a job and says, well, travel if it's 50-50. Well, what does that mean? It means you're home 15 days a month and you're away 15. Well, I was traveling like 90%, which means I was home about 3 days a month. One weekend a month, I was home. So you can't hire a personal trainer if you're only home 3 days a month. You're in different hotels and different places around the world. You're going to have to do a new workout everywhere you go. You have to figure all this out. You're going to have to figure out what you can eat where you are and try to all of that. And
Mhm.
I couldn't hire anybody to do it, so I certified myself. I went and got all those certifications you talked about at the very beginning. Most
Mhm.
of those started so I could take care of myself. But the changes I did for myself, other people noticed and started asking questions. And at the time I was doing this, there were no podcasts for people over 40 in health and fitness. There were no books. Any book you found on health and fitness for anyone over the age of 40 was chair yoga and stretching. And I am not kidding you. You look back before 2015 and you look for any book on fitness over 40, and every one of them is going to be about stretching and yoga. That's it. And so I said, I've got to be my own personal trainer. So I became my own personal trainer. I had no intention of training other people. But when I got done and I realized the information's just not there, and there's so many people who are just like me that don't have what they need. So I said, I'll help some people. I'll start the podcast. I'll train on the side a bit. So I had the side gig of training, but that was not much income. It wasn't intended to be. It was a hobby, if you will, really. And then the
Yeah.
podcast was a hobby. And so I was doing
Yeah.
those things and they were growing. Everything was going well. And then my company laid me off. I'd planned to do that for about 5 years.
Again, apparel, Ellen.
Yeah. So I got laid off, and I remember going home and I told my wife, I said, okay, this is happening,
Mhm.
and I don't want to go back
To corporate.
to
I
corporate.
love
I
it.
don't I
Yeah,
don't
I
like
love it.
those people.
Mhm.
I don't like how they sit in a boardroom and basically start talking about words
Pinpoint
like,
about.
well, they're talking about span of control and head count, and oh, we got to get rid of you got to get rid of 3 head count. I'm like, it's
Mm,
3 head count. It's 3 people.
yes.
And so I remember flying to Kuala Lumpur when we all got laid off because that was my layoff was the last. They outsourced the whole department. I had to fly there. I had 3 staff in Kuala Lumpur. I fly in. I had to
I
tell, and
am
I,
so
I
compelled to ask which company is this, but then I'm gonna hold
okay.
myself
There's
off
there's
again.
well they're not there anymore. It was an American company that had an office there. They've sold their assets and they're not in that
Right.
country anymore. But they
Okay.
were. And you can actually go on my LinkedIn and you'll get your answer.
Ah,
Um,
okay. Okay.
okay. And then, yeah, so I had to fly around and tell people that they no longer had jobs. And I just went to my wife. I said, I'm going to have to do this because this is happening.
Full
And so I was
time.
planning that trip and I said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And I've got to figure out this online training. And so that was a big step for me to walk away from a high paying job, basically say, I'm going to take a low paying business and make it work,
Inconsistent. Yeah.
make it work.
Yeah.
And so, I said, because that's what's right for my health. That's what's right for my
Love that.
fitness. That's going to lower my stress level in ways I can't even really describe. When you're the director, when you're head of internal audit, okay, what a lot of people don't realize is when something really bad happens at a company, there's two people in the boardroom. There's two people that they're going to ask about. They're going to go to CEO and say, okay, why did this happen? But then they're going to turn to me and say, why didn't
Why did you
you let
it
this?
happen?
Yeah, why did you let this happen? How did you miss this?
Mm,
And that would
mm,
happen. I would be in a boardroom and they would turn to me and say, how did you miss this?
yeah.
Okay. So I would even tell people in the company, I'm like, the CEO has a high stress job because if something goes bad, it's his fault.
Mm-hmm.
I have the same thing. If something goes bad, it's my fault that I missed it. I
Mm-hmm.
can't miss anything. So if
Mm-hmm.
you imagine having a job where we have offices all around the world and I have to know what's going on every minute, every day, all around the world, the stress is really there. I'll tell you,
Yeah.
because it's not in your control. And
I
so the
can
best thing you can
imagine.
do is hire really, really good people, which I did in Kuala Lumpur. I loved every single one of those folks. They worked so hard. They were so good at their job. I was so proud to have them as a part of our team. Every one of them. There was not, never had a bad employee there. That was the other fantastic thing was they were all just brilliant. And so I told her, I said, I don't want that stress in my life. And then, yeah, we had the house on the beach. It was paid for, but it was costing us all this money just to keep it, taxes
Mm,
and upkeep. So I told my
mhm.
wife, hey, we can do better. I said,
Yeah, we can do that.
and there's this thing in the United States, probably in other places, but they'll be talking in their career, particularly early in their career. It's like sometimes you just want to sell it all and stop the rat race and just move to a Caribbean island. And that's what my wife and I did.
Wow. Wow. How long has it been since you moved to Panama?
Yeah, 5 years. 5 years February. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we literally we practically just started selling everything, and we booked a one-way ticket. We started the first day we arrived in country. We started working on our residency. So again, it was the full commitment, full look forward, full the way I do things is okay. If we're there, we're there, and then let's make this work. So but it was still, there's outs. If we decided we were done, we can always go back and do something.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. So it's not like we're locked here. But we did buy a bed and breakfast 3 years ago, and so we run Lula's bed and breakfast. It's just a 6-room bed and breakfast. We have an apartment in the same building, so we live there too. And yeah, we run that. I've got my online training and my coaching.
I
And
love that. Are you happier?
oh yeah,
You are.
well, it's still the same thing. If something goes wrong at Lula's, it's my fault. Like, we had a toilet that started running the other day. We have to capture our water from rain. The city sends us some, but we collect it in tanks. It doesn't pump all the time. It's like sometimes there's water and
I'd
sometimes
love
there's
to
not.
visit the Caribbean. Wow.
And so we have these big tanks in the back, but the toilet was running and all the water ran out. Well, all the water
Mm,
runs out. There's no water, but the pump creates a vacuum for the pressure
mhm.
pump for the house, and then that's a problem. It keeps running, so you could burn that pump up. So my wife saw that the pump was running. She told me about it. I got home, there was no water. I said, "Where? There's no water. We had at least 800 gallons this morning when I went to work. No water."
Where are where's the water?
And so that's when I realized there's a leak. So I got to get water in the system, get it running, and then figure out where the leak is. And it happened to be a running toilet that ran out all that water. So now we're in the process of collecting and making sure we get our water reserves back up. I'm not saying my life is just wonderful, hunky dory, great, but that's a lot easier than sitting in a boardroom trying to explain why something
Why?
happened. And
Yeah.
the
It,
reason you wouldn't know about it. And so yeah, it was.
I love that. You
So
made
so
that
now
leap.
so now when I make decisions, I make them on a more holistic, balanced basis. I don't just say, Will that get me the promotion I want? Will that move me in the career path I want? I say, okay, how is this going to affect my life overall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll tell you, I finished that Tough Mudder with my daughter holding her hand. Okay, I remember the day she was born when she wrapped her hand around my pinky. And about a year and a half ago, I walked my daughter down the aisle when she got married. Now, I am fairly confident if I had not put myself up to do that Tough Mudder with her, if I've not had that pivotal moment,
Yeah.
I may not have been alive to
Yeah,
do
let alone to moving
right,
to Panama. Yeah.
right. So the best things that have ever happened in my life happened when I started thinking about the whole picture and not just my career. And so if you it is hard to balance, but I think that's the misnomer. This is not about balancing all the time. This is about at least considering the rest when you make a decision. And so if you're at least considering the rest when you make a decision, you'll make the best decision for yourself at the time.
At
If
the
you're only
time.
focused on one thing, you might be making the best decision for that one thing, but it's not the best decision for you.
And the expense of the rest, the
Yeah,
the other aspects of your
because there
life.
almost always is an expense to the
Yes. Wow, Ellen, that what a remarkable story. I love it. I mean, that is the essence of my podcast. You, it's about, yeah, balance, whatever you spoke about. I'm all for it. And
Cool.
right now, from I don't know if it's the right way to term it as an overachiever, but right now you're more on the holistic side, and I think that's what I'm striving to do as well. So I love it. And for our listeners, I hope they're getting the same insights or even the inspiration to make the move up, but they're scared because of okay, I'm gonna give up my high paying job and go do something that I love. Say they wanna sing or pursue their passion, right? But you're I think you'll get to a point in your life where you say, okay, I'm gonna follow me. What does my heart wanna do? Why do I want to wake up? Like, I don't think anybody wants to wake up and, oh, I want to answer the board today. Definitely not me. I'd like to avoid it, but no, of course not. You can't. So, yeah, I love that. Thank you, Alan. So, Alan, what is next for you?
Well, we're running businesses right now, so my wife and I really are focused on making Lula's to remain the best. It's the oldest bed and breakfast in Bocas, and
Ah,
right now it's rated the best bed. It's the best bed and breakfast in
oh my God.
Bocas.
If I happen to go to
Yeah.
a Caribbean,
If
I definitely would. Yeah.
and so we want to keep it that way. When our
Mm,
guests come, we treat them like family, and that's the whole atmosphere. It's a Caribbean home, and we have them in our home and treat them like family. They have breakfast with us, we're hanging out, and then they're enjoying their adventures on the islands. But we just want to run that well. We want to give people great holiday experiences in Bocas, be a part of the community, help people where we can. Um, and then at some point, yeah, we'll probably end up selling that and retiring into the mountains. I think that's where my wife wants to move, but I'm more of a beach person. But we'll compromise.
we'll figure it out. Yeah.
We'll compromise,
Since you've
which is a
already,
part of
yeah,
it.
it's already been your side, right? The
Well, she's
Caribbean,
a
I
beach
guess it's,
she's a beach person too, and but here's the thing, and okay, ladies, because I imagine most of the ladies listening here are probably a little younger, but you're gonna run across this event in your life that's actually probably going to be a little bit more traumatic than puberty was, and it's called menopause, perimenopause, and
mm-hmm.
menopause. For some women, perimenopause can last as much as 10 years, and so when you're going through that, there are symptoms, particularly hot flashes, night sweats, and things like that will change your temperament towards the weather. Okay, now
Oh,
you're in Kuala Lumpur and the weather's warm all the time, and so you'll
yes.
experience this, but every woman there does, and they just put up with it. Now, because we have a little bit more flexibility, we could sell lulas. My wife kind of wants to move to the mountains because it's colder there.
Oh,
So she feels more comfortable there particularly during the evenings when it cools off. a little cold for me because in where I am in Bocas, it never gets below 21 degrees. It never gets above 31. And
Oh,
so for me, it's a very, very comfortable. It's very humid, like Malaysia, but it's
Malaysia, yeah.
a
Malaysia is
very
super humid.
comfortable 21 to 31 Celsius, and it's very comfortable.
29. Wait, 21 to 29. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
So
mm,
it
okay.
basically it goes, at night it drops down to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and then during the day it never gets
What's
above
that in
9
Celsius?
Celsius, about 21
Okay,
degrees.
that's okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
very
a good.
comfortable. In the
Yeah,
evening is very cool, like Kuala Lumpur. It drops down probably a little warmer in Kuala Lumpur,
warmer,
75,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
75, and then you can get all the way up to 40, 41 on some hot days. So it's warmer in Kuala Lumpur than it is where we are, but every day is about this. It's similar. We're from where we are in the
Tropical.
world. It works, yeah. So, but it's to me, it's very comfortable, and you're on the water, so it's not like Kuala Lumpur where you're kind of landlocked. We're on the ocean, so we're getting sea breezes, and
Mhm.
I think it's nice. She wants a cooler environment, which is I understand, fully understand it. And so yes, I kind of see probably at some point we'll have built up the business to a point where we're like, okay, it's time for us to move on, and then we'll sell Lula's and probably move to Boquete.
Wow, I love that. Definitely, I'm gonna keep that.
Yeah, and the other side
Lulu's
is
bed and
grandchildren.
breakfast.
Lula's bed and breakfast, yeah. But of course, there's probably going to be grandkids, and so my wife's going to want to travel. So yeah, that'd be another part of it of the decision of when to sell is if she's taking trips up to the U.S. to see grandbabies, then
They probably might
yeah,
have to. Yeah.
she's not gonna want to run a bed and breakfast if she's going up there all the time. And so I have to make some
Right.
decisions because it's not a one man job. I can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. Well, thank you for that, Alan. What is your heart's greatest wish?
I just want to live a long, healthy life. I want to be able to take care of myself and be independent. One of the ways I say that, and you might get a little giggle out of this, is I want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 105.
Oh,
And
wow, 105?
okay, well, I want to live a
Okay, well,
long,
of
healthy life. I want to meet my grandchildren. We don't have any
course.
direct grandchildren now. We have one through marriage, but I want to get to a point where I can literally just have a conversation with them. I don't want to just see a couple babies and then I'm done. Um,
Mm, mm,
I want to,
mm, mm,
I want to see what they're doing with their lives. I want to be a part of helping them live their best lives. I want to help
mm.
my clients live their best lives. I want to do all this as long as I possibly can. And that means that I'm independent and taking care of myself and doing the things I need to do. And I'm not dependent on others to take care of me. I don't want that burden on my family. So I want to be the caretaker. I still have that co-pilot in me deep down. So I want to still be taking care of people, but
For the right reasons.
I've got to be able to take care of myself first.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, do you have a mantra that you live by?
I've gone through several of them. I don't really right now. I can't think of one that just like fits, but like what we talked about, it's like when you're going to make a decision, consider your whole self. Don't and the people around you, but really your whole self. If you say, okay, this is going to advance my career, but it's going to harm my life physically, emotionally, give that a lot of thought. So we live in a world of stress, severe stress, social media, people, all of it. It just adds and adds and adds, and that's a cumulative stress on our bodies that just make our life less valuable, less better. And so things you can do if you can reduce your stress and stay, sane, with you're making enough money, you're doing what you got to do to take care of yourself and your family, then do that. But it's really about just pay attention to what these what other things in your life, because those do add up over time. So don't sacrifice your health for wealth, because you'll be spending your wealth to regain your health, and
Mhm.
that's not the way you want to live. It's the way I lived for a long, long time. But so just don't do what I did.
Wow, thank you so much for being transparent. So, Alan, is there anything that keeps you up at night, or do you sleep well?
I wish there was an Olympic sport for sleeping, because that'd be really, really good.
Oh, that's good. I bet you're sleeping better now than you were as
Well,
an
yeah,
head of internal audit.
I always, I always actually could sleep. Stress didn't
Mhm.
affect my sleep. If anything, it made me sleep more.
But,
But I like, well, it's just because it's recovery. Sleep is recovery. Sleep is
yes, yes,
rebuilding.
yes, that's right.
So I'm usually in bed before 9 o'clock, and then I'll wake up. And what I do, I don't set an alarm.
Mhm.
I just go to bed early enough to wake up. And
That's
so
the
I might.
Atlas talking.
Well, no, what it is I understand. Okay, I've done a lot of reading and research and talked to a lot of people about sleep. And you have a
Mhm.
sleep cycle. Sleep cycle is about an hour and a half for most people, 90 minutes. And so what you don't want to do is wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle. That's why they'll tell you to take a mini nap or just go to sleep. And
Right.
so I go to sleep, and then I go through my sleep cycles, and I've measured them. I bought tools and I've measured them, so they're very consistent. So what'll happen is I'll get to a light sleep, and that's when if I've got to go to the bathroom for any reason, that's when I'm going to get up. If I go
Mhm.
back to sleep, that's awesome. So what I've found is I need at least 5 sleep cycles each night. Okay, so that's if you kind of do the math there, that works out to about 7 hours.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's my norm. I go to bed at 8:30. I'm usually going to be up by about 4. Okay. Now, sometimes I need that extra sleep cycle. I did this morning because I'm coming down with a cold, and so I'll have that next sleep cycle. So that'll put me at about 5:30, and then I'll wake up. Every once in a while, I'll need another one, and I'll go back to sleep, and I'll sleep, and that puts me getting up about 8 o'clock. Or yeah, I think 7 o'clock. Yeah, 7 o'clock. So, if I go to bed by 8:30, I'm gonna be awake by 7 every night. So if I just think, okay, I've got to get ready for work and I gotta be at work at 9 o'clock, then but now I work in the bed and breakfast. We don't open the front door until 7 o'clock, for people to come in and get coffee. So if I go to bed at 8:30, I'll be up by 7 for sure. And I'm up, I make the coffee, get the place open, we give them breakfast. It's cool. And then I don't schedule. And this was an unusual one because of the time difference. I schedule at
Thank you
7 in the
so
morning.
much for
But
accommodating.
well, 7 in the morning, but it's just cool. Like I said, no problem. I've been up since 5:30. So that's why I had no problem scheduling it because I just knew this is my schedule. But I don't schedule client appointments until 9 o'clock or
Mhm.
later. So, again, very easy for me to get up, get Lula's going, and then get on my calls.
Wow. Wow. I love your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I coach online. So that's the other side of it is I don't have to be anywhere to coach other people. I've got clients
Right.
all around the world, and so I can coach you from wherever you are. And even if you're a high traveler like I was, it doesn't matter where you are. We can coach because I'm online.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. Now, okay. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
I would say know yourself and keep working on yourself.
I love that. How can people reach out to you, Alan?
Okay. You can go to 40plusfitness.com. That's 40plusfitness.com. I've got links there to the podcast website. I've got links to my book, The Wellness Roadmap. Uh, you can just reach out to me. My email is coach@40plusfitness.com. If you're over 40 and you want to improve your health and fitness, I'm here for you.
Right, thank you. And there you have it, guys. You heard it from the person himself, Allan Misner. Before we close off, Alan, I'd like to personally thank you for the work that you're doing for the world and for advancing every step of the way, despite the challenges, creating trails for those that will come after you. For the listeners, this has been that one podcast with that controversial name, You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. If you find yourself thinking that you're worthless, well, you're probably not alone, but more importantly, ask yourself a level deeper, if I'm worthless, then why the heck am I here? It is because your soul have chosen to be here energetically, all the way from the ethers, and for that reason itself, you are worthy and you are enough. This has been Alan Misner, your guest of the day, and Nick Nieras, your host, signing off. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Nick.